Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Dover. I'm the head of upstream documentation for the Ceph Foundation. Today is the 20th of July, 2023, the 54th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. And this is the 2023 CDS documentation meeting, Developer Summit Squid documentation meeting. Here in the Etherpad, in the chat, I've put a link to, I'm gesturing at my own screen here. I've put a link to the agenda for the meeting.
If you want, sorry to interrupt, but if you want to share your screen so that it gets recorded, that's also an option.
All right, I can do that. Let me maximize this. Where is screen sharing? Great. I'll add it in an email or something. I'm just going to go so that we get through this.
Sure.
So I have 5 items to discuss, and then I'm going to make some general remarks about the mission of documentation, and then the last part of the meeting will be open to whoever wants to make comments. So the first item on the agenda that I put on the agenda is that we are almost finished with the Rados documentation cleaning initiative, which has taken about 3 months. We've gone through every line of Rados documentation, and they are all now syntactically correct in English that reads as though it was written by native speakers, distinguished native speakers. I just looked a minute ago, and we have about 1,000 lines left, and we tend to ingest about 300 lines a day. So barring some kind of unforeseen obstacle, we should be done by Tuesday with the Rados documentation cleaning initiative. And then I will begin more serious. So that's what we've been working on basically since Amsterdam, since Cephalicon. And when that is done, I will begin in earnest on the beginner's guide, which I promised by Squid in Amsterdam. This is the beginner's guide right now. It is in 3x5 note card form, and I will have to type it up. The beginner's guide is meant to be an overview document to introduce people who don't know what Ceph is to Ceph. It will begin with the very general idea of the cluster, and it will break the cluster down into its constituent parts, and each of those will be explained in what I have described at Cephalicon as encyclopedia entries. These will necessarily be heuristic, but they will be good heuristic devices that will point people to more technical documentation. I expect that the Beginner's Guide initiative will be ongoing. Once it gets started, it should be started sometime around the same time that Reef is released. And I will be consulting with all of the team leads to read through it as it's under development. And it will be subjected to the most rigorous scrutiny that we can manage. So I do not anticipate that document being longer than 20 pages. I think if it goes longer than 20 pages, then it's not much of a beginner's guide. It then becomes something else. So now, item 3 is something that came up in the course of trying to take care of item 4, trying to achieve item 4. So I will say what item 4 is first, and then I will go back and say why 3 is necessary. Yana, IcePick, had a complaint about the contextual help. I actually have a note that I made to myself on that score. That he said that when you use the -- help system on, for example, Rados bench -- help, it returns 171 lines, and that only a few of those lines deal with benchmarking options, and that they're harder to find than they should be. So this was another one of the initiatives announced in Amsterdam, that the contextual help will be improved by the time Squid is released. So I began working on this, and I needed a VStart cluster. Now we come back to item 3. The VStart documentation, there is, as of now, not one ambiguous procedure in the documentation that explains how to set up a development subcluster. There are at least 3 procedures, made, of course, in good faith by people who were just making notes on how they were doing things. But they don't agree in every place. So these should be collated and made unambiguous. There should only be one of them. The others should be removed, or there should be redirections to the one that is unambiguously correct. And that's what I'm working on right now. I've been working on that for the last week and a half or so, and I've been collecting error messages. Laura pointed out that I could, I ran out of memory when I was trying to set up the cluster, because the Ninja command needed to have the -J option to constrain the number of jobs to like 3. And I have successfully gotten through that step, but I've run into other things that are beyond the scope of this meeting. But the upshot is, there will be a VStart docs initiative that I will undertake at the same time that I'm working on the beginner's guide. And the VStart docs initiative will be a prelude to the contextual help improvement initiative. I am going to, for the sake of this meeting, I'm going to constrain myself to just saying that there will be the VStart docs initiative, though the VStart docs initiative is just one tractable task that is the first step of a potentially larger initiative whose aim is to clean up all of the developer documentation. But first things first, I want to get a good unambiguous VStart procedure into the documentation. When that's done, then I can proceed to work on the contextual help. And I have not scoped that out yet. That is an initiative for later in the year, closer to Christmas. And that brings us to the 5th item on the agenda, which is something that Dan van der Sturv brought up when we were in Munich after Cephlicon, which is a solutions guide. And that will be undertaken closer to the new year, and then on into the time when Squid is closer to being, when we're closer to the Squid release. Now, the solutions guide will be, it'll be a solutions guide. It will be a thing that people look at when they have pain points, I think is the buzzword. So that maps out the rest of the year, and then gives a vague idea of what we plan to be doing in 2024. So I will now make one remark, a general remark about the mission of documentation as I see it. This is not exactly for anyone who's in the meeting right now. This is sort of a remark for posterity if someone, for whatever reason, should be watching this video. It is most important to me that at every moment when someone is reading the Ceph documentation, they have the sense that it was written by a person who knew what they were writing about and what they were doing, which is just another way of saying that we want the documentation to be reliable, and we want readers to be confident in it, and for it to feel like it was written by someone who has run these commands and who understands the pitfalls that you might run into. And the docs are getting closer to that. And I'm going to leave it at that. And now I will open for, so that those are the items that I have on the agenda. I will open the floor for questions and discussion, and I invite especially ideas for what we should clean next when we're done with Rados. We're thinking manager documentation, but I'm open to suggestion. So that's my part of the meeting. You guys are welcome to ask questions, or we can break at 13 minutes.
I guess as far as manager documentation is concerned, manager compared to Rados is a relatively new thing, so you might have less cleaning up to do. That's just my opinion, but yeah, might be a low-hanging fruit, and then you can move on to other parts of the documentation. I guess I had a general question myself. I wasn't at CephLaCon, so I wanted to know what was the general feedback of users in the community around the documentation work we've been doing.
Okay.
And what are the main, still areas of pain point beyond what we already discussed?
Okay. I can speak only for my own perception of CephLaCon. I was surprised by the warmth, the warm reception that I got as the docs guy at CephLaCon. I do work at this every day, and it's kind of new to me in my career to have that recognized or noticed. I mean, not by you guys, but just by a community in general. And when I spoke at CephLaCon, I invited people to come up if they had questions. I said, like, I am here for the purpose of making the documentation better. If you have a specific concern, you can physically come up to me and speak to me, and we will take care of your concern if we can, if I can do it right now. And people did. I don't want to say I was mobbed, but I did not want for company while I was in Amsterdam. And as for specific pain points, I have my Amsterdam book right here. I bought a book that I could write down things in Amsterdam. Come on, where is it? There were various, I don't know outstanding bugs. There was like an NFS bug that had been noticed by, was it Boris Behrens? I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but there was like a guy, Arne Beyer, came up to me and said that the Ceph 80 adoption documentation included a -- cluster option, which would not work for OSDs. So we sat down and took care of that. I sat down with a couple of guys from Belgium, Garrett and Geert, and we spoke about a possible tuning guide. At this point, I feel like I'm just sort of rambling, but the upshot is I felt that I was very well received at CephLaCon, and there was a lot of interest in documentation, which surprised me. I don't mean that it surprised me to reflect badly on the community. It's just I sort of consider myself to work in obscurity, and it was surprising to me that it was so recognized. So
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it was really great. We all had to give a speech on the state of the cephalopod. That was the keynote, and I said, well, the last time that we all met, there was no word person, and subsequently, I've been hired. I'm a word person, so in that sense, the state of the cephalopod is better. And then this got a laugh, which was not what I was expecting, because I didn't think it was a laugh line. And it indicated to me that people were thrilled that you had hired a documentation person, which is great. It was very nice for me, and it was very nice for us in docs.
Yep, that's really good to hear. And I am aware that the community really cares about good documentation, and I'm happy that they're keeping you busy.
Mm.
I guess the other part of the question that I have was, we've had some discussions around like what's the best way for the community to report bugs, and we created some workflows and things like that. How has that been working? Any feedback on that? Do we need to change anything, or do we need to adapt?
I'll use one particular example. I think things are okay. We use an Etherpad, a report documentation Etherpad, report documentation bugs Etherpad to collect complaints about the documentation bugs. And I will use the example of Brad Fitzpatrick, who right at the new year raised it was a small typo. Let's see if I've got it right here. Yeah, it was numrep, minrep, and maxrep options were not documented in the crush tool. And so this is Brad Fitzpatrick of LiveJournal, which I had a LiveJournal years ago, and I was delighted to see Brad. And so I saw this I think on the 2nd of January, and I wrote back to him on the 4th, and I created a pull request that serviced his complaint. And then we had a short correspondence, and he said, yeah, it was very strange to me to use this Etherpad as a bug registration system, because I had no idea if it was going to even be seen. And I actually responded to him even more quickly than that. I remember that I just happened to see it like within hours of when he raised it, and I was able to get back to him with lightning speed. And he said it would be nice if there was some sort of ticketing system where he could get some sort of idea, but we serviced it so quickly that he had no complaint. So using Brad as the example, he had never raised a bug against the documentation and stuff before, and he found the process weird, but also, insofar as he could be considered a customer, we gave him great customer service, so he had no complaints. I don't mean to speak for him. I mean, he would have to speak for himself, but we had a good correspondence, and we took care of his we took care of these undocumented options in Crush Tool very quickly. So I think we're okay, unless you know something I don't. If you know if there have been complaints from the community about the way that we handle documentation issues, then have you heard anything like that, Neha?
No, I haven't. I'm just curious because you got live feedback, talking to people in general. So
yeah, if you mean at Cephalacon, people were like very positive, like really. I don't know if there were any complaints about the way that we do our thing. Like there were complaints about various aspects of the documentation. When I say complaints, I mean no one was rude, and everyone was extremely well informed and intelligent. I don't know that this really has to be a part of the meeting, but I was surprised at how professional and how well informed everyone at Cephalacon was. So I don't remember any major complaints. Anything else? Or did that answer your question? I guess I should say.
Yep.
Good.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any documentation related things to say, or complaints about the maybe complaint is the wrong word, I've just been using it a lot, requests to alter the course that I've mapped out for the next year for documentation? I'm going to take silence. Oh, yeah, all right.
Sorry, sir. I have a quick question. We just had a telemetry CDS session, and I was wondering, it was brought up that there are periodic newsletter that we
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I absolutely forgot to include
No worries.
CQ. Thank you very much, Shart. That's,
Yeah.
oh, maybe you should be running the documentation team.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm, yes, Josh and I we went to Germany after CephLaCon, and we were talking about various Ceph things. And we came up with this idea for something called Ceph Quarterly, which is a digest of features that have been developed over the past 90 days. And initially, originally we'd planned to publish on June 1st, but it took us longer, so we published on July 1st. And it's a one-page digest of what has happened in Ceph over the past 90 days. And in this case, we had one news item. There was what was it? An addition to the Ceph border, I think was what it was. But we'll be doing this every 3 months. So October 1st, there will be another Ceph Quarterly, and I'll say this right here. It's, I guess, sort of hidden on the page. It's kind of clever, and it's sort of embarrassing to say it like this. Ceph Quarterly is CQ, and then underneath that we have on the newsletter itself, it says Ceph Quarterly, and then underneath that there is the Morse code for C and Q, because in the days of ham radio and of telegraphy, when you were trying to get in touch with someone, you would type CQ, which is English, I seek you. And it just happens that Ceph Quarterly begins with C and Q. So anyway, yes, thank you, Yaret. There is now a newsletter that will be out every 3 months. And after we publish 4 of them, there will be a 4-page digest that can be read in 10 minutes that will provide all of the major changes to Ceph over the last year. So thank you for reminding me of that. I really should have included that in my list, and it just got away from me.
No, all good. So usually it's going to be sent to what mailing lists?
I sent it to Ceph users, and I don't remember if I sent it to Ceph Devel. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Let me see here. I can bring it up. Oh. Dan says that he didn't see the A4 or letter PDF. I sent it to Ceph users. So do you think I should send it to Ceph Dev as well?
I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, I'll do it next time. Maybe I'll include the first edition as well. I'm timid sending things to Ceph Dev because I don't want to crud up anybody's inbox. But I will, with your invitation, I'll absolutely do it.
Yeah, I see your point. I think it's sometimes probably there are developers who are not opted into that mailing list, and I think it'll be nice for them to receive the update as well.
I'll do it. I'll add it. It's a point well taken. My reticence is just I don't know, personal timidity, not wanting to bother developers unless it's necessary. But if you say it's necessary, then I trust you, so I'll do it.
That's my opinion, but I don't know, Radek, Josh, Neha, do you have any objections to send it to Ceph Dev as well? Or to the dev list, actually? we have a no from Neha.
Yeah, I'm going to assume silence is assent, and you're my target audience. So if you say yes, then I'll do it. And if somebody complains, then we can deal with it then.
Sounds like a good idea.
Oh, they're typing. That's me pointing at my screen. They're typing. They say nope. They have no objections.
Yeah. So
We'll do it.
Thanks.
And thank you for reminding me. It utterly slipped my mind. It was an intense period of getting everything together for about a week and a half, but the Rados Docs cleaning initiative has been mainly the thing that I've been working on, or that I had been working on for months, and more recently this VStart documentation thing. So, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. I wanted to ask. So we were talking about having some updates from telemetry, like a quarterly newsletter. I wonder whether we can include a paragraph.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Or just even a short summary there as well.
Yeah, that's what this is for. This is exactly for this. In fact, let it be known to all the team leads that we have this quarterly newsletter now, and that like everybody can have a couple of inches of column space in it.
Mm-hmm.
I printed in with Bell Gothic, which is the same typeface or the same font that was used to print phone books back when there were phone books. So it's so there's a lot of text on the page.
Cool.
Go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
No, yeah. I just want to say that the credit goes to Nizam. He brought it up in previous session that we had. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, we can have regardless telemetry newsletter, but I think we can get more traction if we add even just a paragraph there.
Yeah, and I mean we're perfectly happy to advertise a telemetry newsletter in Ceph Quarterly.
Okay.
I mean, whatever you want to do. Like it's a newsletter for people to communicate, to provide a digest of what various teams have been doing, so people can have at least some idea of what's going on elsewhere, and then so that people external to the Ceph Foundation can get an overview.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me of it. I should have added it to the agenda.
No worries at all. Thanks to Nizam for bringing this up.
And thanks to Nizam as well.
Yeah.
Anything else, anybody? Okay, I'm going to assume that's a no. I'm going to wait about 15 seconds. And then, since it's my meeting, I'm going to close it at exactly 30 minutes. All right. I'm going to assume that no one has any comments, and this was the Squid Ceph Developer Summit documentation meeting on the 20th of July, 2023. Thank you to everyone for attending, and thank you to anyone in the future who is watching this for whatever reason. So that's it. Meeting over.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.